Hello, everybody. I'm Giles Perkins, Head of Future Mobility for WSP, and I'm also Programme Director for the £23 million DFT-funded Adept Live Labs. Sitting alongside me in around our virtual fireplace is Jason Pavey, who's Market Director for Local Transport for Atkins, and Jason is one of our commissioning board members that oversees the project. And today we're talking to Richard from Suffolk. So could you introduce yourself, Richard? Just tell us what you do.
Certainly. Hello, Giles. My name is Richard Webster, and I'm Suffolk County Council's Asset Manager for Street Lighting, but I'm also the Project Director for the Suffolk Live Labs.
Fantastic. So Suffolk's quite a complicated live lab, lots of things going on it, lots of components. Could you give the viewers an overview of how the live lab's kind of constructed, what you're delivering, what you hope to achieve, etc.?
Yes, certainly. As you alluded to there, it's a very broad project. So we're looking to deploy a very wide range of sensors. The idea being that we can revolutionise some of the highway services we currently deliver. It's important to know that by deploying a wide range of sensors, we also look at different sensor types to deliver each application. So if you look at, for example, road surface temperature, are we looking at more expensive sensors? Are we looking at more cost-effective sensors? Do we look at invasive technologies? Do we look at in-ground technologies? So it's got to be important that we deploy these in a controlled environment to start with. We're working with some of our partners, the University of Suffolk, and using BT's Industrial Park research facility to trial the sensors first before we deploy them into the field. It's imperative, though, that the sensors that we deploy, we have a robust business case that's peer reviewed that supports what we do. And the business cases need to be to such a degree that they provide relevant information. So we're under no illusions that all the sensors won't provide all the information. There won't be the panacea for everything, but we need to actually show that the methodologies that we deploy, that the big data that we're getting from all these sensors, give other authorities the confidence to invest in these technologies as well.
So kind of how do all that, what underpins that sensor network, and what are the types of places that you're deploying technology?
Okay, so Suffolk's a quite unique authority insofar as we've got rural areas, we've got coastal areas, we've got urban locations, so that all the sensors we trial, we're going to trial in each of these areas so they can be replicated throughout the rest of the country. I think that's important. As I alluded to earlier, the methodology we employ, we want other authorities to take on board what we've done. If I give you an example, we have a communications network in place at the moment, but we felt that may not be best for everyone. So therefore, let's look at other technology, other communication networks to see what works best in each area. We mentioned that we've got a wide range of sensors, so we'll be using these sensors on these different communication networks, whether that's radio UMB, whether that's a LoRaWAN network or a mesh network. So again, it's a very wide-ranging project.
And Richard, just building on that and picking up a couple of points. So Living Labs is sort of adding more and looking at things through different lenses. I take this as building on equipment networks that you just alluded to that's already been in place in Suffolk. And I'm just interested in, how are you bringing those together, and has that given you any challenges?
Yes, I mean, the County Council's always been very in favour of innovation. They've always supported us in that. So we're going to build on what we have at the moment. So we have a central management system at the moment. We have a communications network. So how can we further utilise that? But also, what are the other opportunities? So Suffolk already has another project to deploy county-wide LoRaWAN networks. So can we utilise that network as well? So we're looking at many different technologies using many different communication networks. And when you're ready, obviously, I'll go into further detail into the sensors that we're looking to provide.
That's nicely segued. As I understand it, it's a large number of sensors. Can you just give the viewers an indication of how many we're dealing with? Because it is quite impressive.
Yes, so let's look at some of them. So we're looking at adaptive lighting. So looking to illuminate the streets when we need to illuminate them for when different types of road use are in place. So we're looking at radar-based technology. We're also looking at camera-based technology, so comparing and contrasting. We're looking at air quality monitoring, and I'll come on to that later, but we're looking at doing that in a more holistic way to what we currently do. We're looking at gully sensing, so whether that's looking at silt levels, water levels. We're looking at renewable technologies. Obviously, reducing our carbon footprint, reducing our emissions is a big thing at the moment, and that's something we're looking to achieve. So wind and solar. Now, Intuitively, I would say let's put the wind and solar near the coast, but obviously not everywhere has a coastal area. So it's important, again, going back to the compare and contrast, that we put some of those inland as well. Again, looking at the insights that we can gain from those accordingly. Moving further on, we're looking at in-home sensors, so looking to see how we can help the vulnerable. And we're also looking at taking the road surface temperature sensors a bit further, looking at grip bins. So if we have a grip bin in place, do we need to just keep driving around and emptying them, or can we have the various insights to know when they need to be emptied, when they need to be replenished? Taking it a step further, looking at waste bins. We've got some very remote waste bins at the moment that sometimes they go to be emptied when they potentially don't need to be. So can we utilise the technology to give us the insights that we work much more effectively? Work with some of our other partners. We're looking at assets prospectuses, assets agreements, and these are all things obviously we'll be sharing with people as well, so people can then start building on their assets and utilising them more effectively.
That's great. And Richard, the program itself, perhaps you can give us a feel for, how long is it? Where are you in the program? And what's been installed so far?
So we started off taking quite a novel approach. We decided that rather than just off we go, we need to start planning it properly. We need to start involving all the various stakeholders. The trials we do need to be meaningful. We need to be almost looking at a problem area and seeing how we can solve it. But before we started doing any of that, we decided to develop our own sets of terms and conditions and non-disclosure agreements that were applicable to this project. So we had some very good support internally, and we developed our own conditions accordingly. And we were quite enthused that the feedback we had from our suppliers were that they were relevant and they were very fair. So that was good feedback. So following on from that, we've now started to install road surface temperature sensors, and we have a number of those in place at the moment. We're still installing them. We're also rolling out central management system nodes, different to the one we have in place at the moment, just to give us that compare and contrast as well. We have gully sensors in place at Industrial Park that we're now ready to deploy. So we really are on the cusp now. We're starting to roll things out on a wider scale. And the air quality monitoring is something that's very interesting. And if it's okay with you, I'll just elaborate on that now, if you like, just to give you an example of how we're trying to approach it differently. So previously, one of the methods that we used to measure air quality was diffusion tubes, which is a method that's tried and tested. We're now looking to mount air quality monitors onto streetlights at 2.5, 3 meters in the air. And this will start measuring particulates such as PM2.5, PM10. But rather than just have that information, we're also looking to install in some location cameras. And what the cameras will do, they'll look at vehicle classifications, whether it's pedestrians, whether it's cyclists, cars, vans, lorries. That will then provide a set of data that we can start to correlate with the air quality measurements. And then on top of that, we're looking at anemometers to see if we can look at wind speed, wind direction. So where the particulates come from, where they're going to. So as you can see, we're starting to get all this data that we can start making insights into potential interventions. Now, a topic in the county at the moment is parking near schools and people idling. So we're looking to see whether we can put some car parking adhesive sensors in. Again, looking at different times people park, whether they drop off, to see whether people are idling, then to see whether, again, we can make necessary interventions and try things out to try and improve the air quality, obviously, for the people of Suffolk. And that's just one example.
There's an interesting point in all of that, that the kind of the volume of the data and the insights that it gives you. How has that landed kind of with decision makers, members, senior officers, in terms of telling those stories around what the art of the possible is? Because it sounds super impressive that all these things are out there. How's that kind of soft sell been done, if you like?
It's been important from an early stage we identify the key stakeholders. I mean, by any stretch of the imagination, I'm not an expert in any of this technology. I know a little enough to get by. So we've involved decision makers like winter decision makers and winter maintenance experts. And we've included them in everything we've done to make sure that what we're doing is as I said before, as it's meaningful. It is important, though, that we have all these different sensors. We've got lots of individual dashboards, but it's important we bring that all together in one place so that we have, for example, the street lighting people can look at street lighting data on the platform. Winter service people can look at winter service data. But then the strategic commissioners can look at all the data and start making their decisions. So an important part of this project is having a single dashboard that ingests all the data from all the other sensors from all the other vendors. I think that's a key component to our project.
And Richard, building from that obviously gives a very different ability to make informed decisions, in terms of your network. Just back to air quality, quite interesting in the schools and the idling cars, for example, and car parking you were talking about. I mean, is there any benefit or any way of reaching out so that we can make some of this data available to users and road users, pedestrians, to help people make more informed choice? Is that on the cards?
That's certainly on the cards. Sharing of the data is a big part of the project, and it's getting the right people involved. I mentioned before we've got the University of Suffolk involved, just to show you how we can help on a community-wide basis. We're working with the university at the moment to provide some anonymised data to give the pupils and students assignments and projects, almost present them with a problem. Here's the data. How can you see that we can solve it? And taking it a step further, we're developing a hackathon as well, which all the Live Lab partners will be invited to as well, just to try and see how we can get some of these insights from the big data that we're providing, because at the moment we don't have all the answers, but by having this data available, at least that's a starting position to start analysing it accordingly.
Fantastic.
Really interesting. I quite like the community engagement angle with this, because that's kind of that's the enthusiasm and the skills for the future, isn't it?
It is, and being part of this project's also given us the access to the other Live Labs projects, and there's a lot of synergies we have with these projects. So we're speaking to them at quite a detailed level to share what we're doing with them, and vice versa, they're sharing their data with us, because the more data we have, as I said before, the more confidence we can have in that data. So when we provide those business cases, other authorities have that confidence that what we're saying can be achieved is achievable.
Brilliant. And perhaps a strange question, Richard, but what surprised you so far? Or has anything surprised you? But what if it has, what is it?
I suppose the enthusiasm is what surprised me, and that's taken it from a level, for example, the operatives installing the equipment are very interested how the equipment works and what the benefit to be to them. If you take that through to the vendors, the suppliers are very interested in what we're doing, very helpful, lots of suggestions. We're trying to avoid scope creep, because scope creep's something that I'm very conscious of. There's lots of new shiny bits of equipment available virtually on a daily basis. So it's making sure that we stick to the programme. But the enthusiasm also goes through the entire county council. We're at a stage now, because we're supplying data, people are asking for that data for their own means and ends that we didn't foresee. So in this situation of COVID, for example, we're able to provide traffic counts and traffic volumes to different teams to show how traffic has changed during this period. And that's obviously been something that's been quite important. So the enthusiasm from senior managers, from councillors, they're all very interested in the project and can see the benefits and the potential as well.
Fantastic. So just as a wrap-up question, really, if other local authorities are considering investing in similar innovative technologies, what would your takeaway advice be partway through the programme for them?
The takeaway advice would be the planning. There's a lot of detail in the planning, and no matter what we think we know, it does help to devolve some of the suggestions, the locations and the decisions to the experts, because we can't know everything. But once you have those locations, consultation's obviously important as well, letting people know what you're doing, but also having the people in place to actually look at the data and to make those necessary insights, because to make those interventions, you need to know what it is you're actually trying to achieve.
Fantastic. Thank you, Richard. Thank you for describing what's happening in your Live Lab, and thank you, Jason. For all the viewers, if you want to find out more about Adept Live Labs, just Google Adept Live Labs. You will find our website, you will find white papers, you will find the end of year report, blogs and news pieces. And thank you for watching, and we hope to see you again soon.